Ladies and gentlemen, now we will be starting with e-commerce session. To begin with, the first keynote address on e-commerce, I would like to welcome Juhi Singh, Head of Digital Center of Excellence, India and International Marico Limited. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Over to you.
So, hello everyone, good afternoon. Um, Today, I am very elated that I've been invited as a keynote speaker by Elets Media. And what I'm going to talk about is one of the buzzword digital transformation and digital commerce in Indian context. So, the topic today that I've chosen is wave of digital transformation in India and trends that will impact the digital commerce of future. Hello, I am Juhi Singh. I head the Digital Center of Excellence for India and International in Marico Limited. So we begin, and there is a very interesting quote that I would like to quote with before we get into the main presentation. This quote is by Charles Darwin. While it has been said with respect to theory of evolution of human and species, but it holds true even in the industrial context. So, what he said, and that translates to India's situation today, that it's not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent one. It's the one which is most adaptable to change. Um, and so has the management consultant Peter Drucker said very recently that the enterprises that do not innovate age and decline in a period of rapid change such as now, and they will be declining faster. So, which is why, when we are in the intersection of brands with heritage and brands which are coming as incumbent and insurgents, digital transformation has become a buzzword. What's happening in the world that has impacted India? So if you go on YouTube, there is a very interesting video of how S&P index continues to change and how technology companies start to emerge. So back in 1980s, there were hardly any like IBM uh, at the top. And then when we get into 1990s, we see a couple of them again emerging. In 2000 is when the disruption has started, and 2010 you see that Apple, Googles of the world started to feature. Now we come to 2020, and there is a very popular acronym used called FANG. FANG stands for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, and they are now shaking up, rocking the S&P index. That's happening in future, and most of these companies are predicted to have the highest growth, and they are going to, let's say, rule the world of future. While that was happening in the world, in India also there was a different growth story that was happening. India has become the second largest internet user based country. And by 2025, we are estimated to have 900 million active internet user base, uh, which is basically 45% rise in next 5 years. And despite the fact that right now we have 31% rural penetration, by 2025, the internet user base in the country will be the rural India being higher than urban India, which is why there has been this trend and emphasis on vernacular voice and video, because as we go more towards Bharat from the India in internet penetration, they do not understand English as a native language, and hence they are more comfortable in typing or reading in vernacular language. Maybe a lot of them are not even literates or are comfortable in typing on their mobile, so which is why voice searches are on rise. And lastly, the most interactive form of media is video for them, instead of looking at a static wherein text is typed. So these are going to be the game changers as we go ahead. Also, there is a rise of Bharat, like I mentioned. So, out of the overall 546 million internet base, 323 are urban internet active users at the moment. And within urban and the total internet user base, 158 million are estimated to be Bharat. That is, these people prefer Indic languages over English. And the content and the media habits of these people are also very different, right? there is a very high uh, video streaming which is happening. They are low on reading, let's say print or whatever. They are also very high on TV usage at the moment. So TV and video streaming is almost equal. However, even at this given point of time, digital video has surpassed even in Bharat. We are also seeing some of the other habits that are rising in this population. While cash is still the most predominant mode used for payment, there is a high penetration of UPI that is happening in Bharat. As we go ahead, we also see that that entertainment as a genre, which is comedy and music, are the most preferred genres being watched or listened to by this particular cohort. And there is a high penetration of categories like gadgets, online travel booking, food, beauty and skincare, clothing and electronics good. One last thing to remember, one may think that they are looking for only cheaper option, but that is not the case because SECA penetration is even higher. So what's happening is that even in Bharat, the premium, so as to say, category of people are adopting internet first at the moment. We are seeing that in India already the time spent digitally is higher when compared to traditional media. And even across the world, the digital adoption in India continues to be the highest. We are seeing that the time spent on internet is around 1.8 hours per day, and 9 out of 10 active internet users are using it every day. And even the gap between rural and urban right now exists, but it's actually bridging very fast. So now, why this trend has happened that the country is on such a high growth of digitization? One very important factor that has come into play is actually cost. So first is the cost of smartphones. With the entry of lot of affordable smartphones in India, the access to internet is on rise, and actually 90+% of our population is accessing internet on a daily basis on their smartphones, instead of the trend which was there abroad with the, most of the people using it on their PCs or laptop. Secondly, in India, the data prices across the world are the cheapest, and it's almost as if it's free, right? Third key incident that happened was demonetization. And when that happened, a lot of people were forced to get on digital payments, and they had to adopt internet for transactions. Fourth and very important recent event is a very long period of lockdown, which has happened twice, and because of which any barrier on touch, feel, and going for physical shopping has been had to be done away with. And even in tier two and beyond, we saw that suddenly Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra uh, of the world became so popular, and people got used to of buying online because it gave them convenience as well as it saved them a lot of cost. Lastly, like I mentioned, heavy discounting on these platforms is also making it more lucrative versus going in a physical store, which is not able to offer that kind of discounting. Um, I also mentioned that time spent on internet is very high, and which is why the digital adoption in India is higher. Now, with these media habits, what is also changing is the online shopper base in the country. So we see that in 2021, 25% growth rate has been achieved on new shoppers that are coming. And by 2030, it's estimated that India's e commerce market is going to be a $350 billion economy, which is a huge number. And even within that, there are cohorts of other rises like social commerce is on rise, quick commerce is on rise. With COVID induced pandemic, we saw that some of the categories like electronics, mobiles, appliances also saw one time growth spurt. But there were these frequent usage categories like groceries, household, personal care also saw rapid growth and are most likely to continue even post pandemic. One of the McKinsey reports stated, and which is very true, that what could have happened in 5 years has happened in actually 8 weeks of fast forward growth that digital is seeing, digital business is seeing. So there was this meme going on that who led your digital transformation? Was it CIO? Was it CMO? Or was it COVID? And a lot of people said COVID-19. So digital transformation is actually led by a lot of digital native organizations, which are also incumbent or are having digital only businesses. And also, uh, COVID, like I said, has got digital infrastructure to forefront. So preparedness for something like work from home or catering to consumer who's buying online has become the top priority of most of the organization. So it is evident with these trends that digital is going to be here and it is here to stay. About 65% of Indian shoppers are going to go online to buy a product who have previously bought it on store. And even while offline mobilities have resumed, they have said that they will continue to buy online, largely because of time, cost saving, flexible payment option, diversity in product offering, and delivery services. We see that Google reports that there is 533% growth rate in direct to consumer brand. There is also 32% rise in online shopping trend. We also see that codes are on rise, and fast deliveries are being searched and free deliveries are being searched. Um, Additionally, we see there is a heightened interest in live stream, virtual try on, and short video format as well. India is also right now at a very interesting intersection of David and Goliath movement in India, with the rise of insurgents who are challenging most of the heritage brands. So why is this happening? Again, last 4 years have been stellar, but with the future wherein rise of rural consumer is going to happen, we are going to foresee a industrial revolution. With the increased data penetration, there is also rise in per capita e-commerce spend. Millennials are also not very loyal to one brand. In fact, they are very much experimentative in their nature. With the strategy of nichification, which these brands have gotten into the areas which were, let's say, unserved, that has actually delighted customers. And also, the millennial culture that these brands bring to table is something which is very interesting. So they are not going for a very large reach campaign, so as to say, but a very very eye-catching spurt of viral campaigns instead. A very good example of that is what Cred has been doing. um, so what is happening essentially is that the insurgent brands, instead of, let's say, relying on what had been the growth factors of past, they are going to rely on contract manufacturing instead of having that in-house, effective deployment of digital technology, micro targeting of consumer, increased accessibility of venture capital, which essentially gives them a capital to invest and reinvest on, and thus grow very fast. And these are the five key growth drivers which I think, that is, one is India's rising middle class gives a room to play with, which is ready to experiment and explore. Growth of digital natives with increasing data consumption and e-commerce revolution has also been, instead of expensive, now very effective, right? The behavioral impact of smartphone has changed the way marketing is done now, and digital revolution is being bought now with a focus to rural India as well, which was not the case in past. And lastly, the consumer attitude and purchasing power parity, along with the aspirations, is meeting an equilibrium. So what is going to be there in future, tier 2 and 3 and beyond, and what the D2C brands have been able to do, which was never done before, is that with the series of lockdown and social distancing happening, they were readily available when the country saw a massive lockdown, and they were able to fulfill the needs of the consumer or the demand gap that was there, right? And by April 2021, we saw more than 800 brands that have shifted to this model, which is consistently growing, and it is estimated to go beyond $100 billion by 2025. According to Redseer data, that tier 2 locations and beyond may account for actually 88% of online shoppers between 2020 and 2030. Thus, rural focus, voice vernacular, the medium through which you reach out to them becomes very important. And lastly, content is playing a very crucial role because the insurgent brands are changing the way the marketing needs to be done to these audience set. So they are, instead of, let's say, reaching out to them through traditional media, they are reaching out to them with micro influencers, which have more credibility in the space. So lastly, I would like to end this presentation on the thought that companies who would fail to create future because not that they are not able to predict it, but they are failing to imagine it, would decline. And it is the lack of creativity and curiosity that they are lacking, and not the perspicuity. So that's about it, and I thank you for listening to me so patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining with us today and briefing your insights on e-commerce. As a token of appreciation, I would like to present the appreciation certificate to Juhi Singh, Head of Digital Center of Excellence, India and International Marico Limited. Thank you for joining with us today, ma'am.